माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जगन्नाथ माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय गुरुदेव 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 जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव 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 जय गुरुदेव विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामचार्य शिलारिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र मैया की जय श्री गौर निताय की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gaurango. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Okay, so we'll read from Prabhupada Lilamrita. Screen. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Alan and Peter had come for the kirtan, but it wasn't quite time. Prabhupada hadn't come down. They presented a new harmonium to the devotees. It's for the kirtans, said Alan. A little donation. Alan stood at the entrance to the storefront, talking with Hayagreef, telling him how he had been chanting Hare Krishna around the world at peace marches, poetry readings, a procession in Prague, a writers' union in Moscow. Secular kirtan, said Alan. But Hare Krishna nonetheless. Then Prabhupada entered. Alan and Peter sat with the congregation and joined in the kirtan. Alan played harmonium. Alan, quote, I was astounded that he had come with the chanting because it seemed like a reinforcement from India. I had been running around singing Hare Krishna but had never understood exactly why or what it meant. But I was surprised to see that he had a different melody because I thought the melody I knew was the melody, the universal melody. I had gotten so used to my melody that actually the biggest difference I had with him was over the tune because I had solidified it in my mind for years, and to hear another tune actually blew my mind. After the lecture, Alan came forward to meet Prabhupada, who was still sitting on his dais. Alan offered his respects with folded palms and touched Prabhupada's feet, and Prabhupada reciprocated by nodding his head and folding his palms. They talked together briefly, and then Prabhupada returned to his apartment. Alan mentioned to Hayagreef that he would like to come by again and talk more with Prabhupada. So Hayagreef invited him to come the next day and stay for lunch prasadam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yadvaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Yanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyamavishkritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So Hare Krishna everybody and welcome to this morning session where we are reading from Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27 and today's verses, text 11. Ije cha kratubhir ghorair dikshitah pashu marakahi devan pitrin bhutapatin nanakamo yatha bhavan. Ije cha kratubhir ghorair dikshitah pashu marakahi devan pitrin bhutapatin nanakamo yatha bhavan. Ije cha kratubhir ghorai dikshitah pashu narakahi devan pitrin bhutapatin nana kamo yatha bhavan. devotees would like to recite.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandot Pranam.
Nice to have you back.
Yes, thank you. Ije cha krutavir gharvir dikshita pashu marakain devan pritin bhuta patin nana kama yata bhavan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I'm also trying. Ije chakrutavir ghoroi dikshitaha pashumarakoi devan pitrin bhutapati nana kamo yatha bhavan. Hare Krishna.
ইজে চক্রতুভির ঘোরে দীক্ষিতঃ পশুমারকৈ দেবান পিতৃন ভূতপতিন নানা কামো যথা ভবান. হরে কৃষ্ণ.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Ije cha kratuvir ghorir dikshitaha pashu marakoi devan pitrin bhutapatin nana kamo yatha bhavan. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. At the synonyms. EJ.
I'll try, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Synonyms by Srila Prabhupada. EJ, he worshipped. Cha, also. Kratubi, by sacrifices. Gore, ghastly. Dikshita, inspired. Pashu Marakai, wherein poor animals are killed. Devan, the demigods. Pitrin, forefathers. Bhutapatin, great leaders of human society. Nana, various. Kama, having desires. Yata, like. Bhavan, you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And this is a long purport. There are 6 paragraphs. So I would request devotees to take turns and read them. I'll do the translation perhaps, and then I would request somebody to start with the purport. Translation. The great sage Narad continued, "My dear King Prachina Barhishat, like you, King Puranjana also became implicated in so many desires. Thus, he worshipped demigods, forefathers, and social leaders with various sacrifices, which were all very ghastly because they were inspired by the desire to kill animals."
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purport. In this verse, the great sage Narad discloses that the character of Puranjana was being described to give lessons to King Prachin Barishan. Actually, the entire description was figuratively describing the activities of King Prachin Barishan. In this verse, Narad frankly says, "Like you, Yata Bhavan," which indicates that King Puranjana is none other than King Prachin Barishad himself. Being a great Vaishnava, Narad Muni wanted to stop animal killing in sacrifices. He knew that if he tried to stop the king from performing sacrifices, the king would not hear him. Therefore, he is describing the life of Puranjana. But in this verse, it first discloses the intention, although not fully, by saying, "like you." Generally, the karmis who are attached to increasing descendants have to perform so many sacrifices and worship so many demigods for future generations, as well as to satisfy so many leaders, politicians, philosophers, scientists, to make things go on properly for future generations. The so-called scientists are very eager to see that future generation will live very comfortably, and as such, they are trying to find the different means of generating energy to drive locomotives, cars, airplanes, and so on. Now, they are exhausting the petroleum supply. These activities are described in Bhagavad Gita 2:41. Vyavashayatmika buddhi eka kuru nandana baushakahi anantasya buddhayo vyavashayinam. Those who are on the spiritual path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute in many branches. Hare Krishna.
Somebody else?
Actually, those who are in knowledge of everything are determined to execute Krishna consciousness, but those who are rascals, mudha, sinners, duskritaha, and the lowest of mankind, naradhamo, who are barefoot of all intelligence, maya aparita gana, and who take shelter of the demonic way of life, ashuram bhavan asritaha, are disinterested in Krishna consciousness. As such, they become implicated and take on so many activities. Most of these activities center around the killing of animals. Modern civilization is centered around animal killing. Karmis are advertising that without eating meat, their vitamin value or vitality will be reduced. So, to keep oneself fit to work hard, one must eat meat, and to digest meat, one must drink liquor. And to keep the balance of drinking wine and eating meat, one must have sufficient sexual intercourse to keep fit to work very hard like an ass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Somebody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. There are two ways of animal killing. One way is in the name of religious sacrifices. All the religions of the world, except the Buddhists, have a program for killing animals in places of worship. According to Vedic civilization, the animal eaters are recommended to sacrifice a goat in the temple of Kali under certain restrictive rules and regulations and eat the flesh. Similarly, they are recommended to drink wine by worshipping the goddess Chandika. The purpose is restriction. People have given up all this restriction. Now they are regularly opening wine distilleries and slaughterhouses and indulging in drinking alcohol and eating flesh. A Vaishnava Acharya like Narada Muni knows very well that persons engaged in such animal killing in the name of religion are certainly becoming involved in the cycle of birth and death, forgetting the real aim of life to go home back to Godhead. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thus, the great sage Narada, while instructing Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasa Muni, condemned the karma kanda fruitive activities mentioned in the Vedas. Narada told Vyasa, Jugup Shitam Dharma Krite Anushasataha Swabhava Raktasya Mahan Vyatikramaha Yad Vakyoto Dharma iti Tarasthita No Manyate Tasya Nivaranam Janaha. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable, because they are guided under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Bhagavatam 1.5.15. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Krishna.
Srila Narad Muni chastised Vyasadeva for compiling so many Vedic supplementary scriptures, which are all intended for guiding the people in general. Narad Muni condemned these scriptures because they don't mention direct devotional service. Under Narada's instructions, direct worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, was set forth by Vyasadeva. The conclusion is that neither Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, nor his devotee ever sanctions animal killing in the name of religion. Indeed, Krishna incarnated himself as Lord Buddha to put an end to animal killing in the name of religion. Animal sacrifice under the name of religion is conducted by the influence of Tamoguna, the mode of ignorance, as indicated in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 18.31 and 32. Yatha dharmam adharmam cha karyam eva cha athavat prajanati buddhisha partha rajashi adharmam dharmam iti yah manyate tamo sarvatha shabrita shashabrita sarvartham viparitartham cha buddhisha partha tamoshi. That understanding, which cannot distinguish between the religious way of life and the irreligious, between action that should be done and action should not be done. That imperfect understanding also, Bharto, is in the mode of passion. That understanding which considers religion to be religion and religion to be religion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, O Bharto, in the mode of ignorance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. And last.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Those who are involved in the mode of ignorance manufacture religious systems for killing animals. Actually, dharma is transcendental. As Lord Sri Krishna teaches, we must give up all other system of religion and simply surrender unto him. Sarva dharmam parityajya. Thus, the Lord and his devotees and representative teach the transcendental dharma, which does not allow animal killing at all. At the present moment, it is the greatest misfortune that in India, many so-called missionary workers are spreading irreligion in the name of religion. They claim an ordinary human being to be God and recommend meat eating for everyone, including so-called sannyasis. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Stop sharing. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'll just read the translation again. The great sage Narada continued, "My dear King Prachinabadhishat, like you, King Puranjana also became implicated in so many desires. Thus, he worshipped demigods, forefathers, and social leaders with various sacrifices, which were all very ghastly because they were inspired by the desire to kill animals." Well, Prabhupada has explained beautifully in this purport pretty much all points, so we really don't need a discussion and just say Bhagavatam class finished. But yeah, there's so many points here. Just to keep to time, perhaps we'll touch upon 5 important points today that we can contemplate on and take away with us. So in the verse itself, Narad Muni is continuing to explain the story to King Prachinabadhishat. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes that Narad Muni, it is his mission to not just reform sinners, it is also his mission to elevate people who are in the mode of goodness, who are following Vedic injunctions. Even to those people, Narad Muni considers it his duty to elevate them to devotional service. So if you think about it, Prachinabadhishat, was he a bad person? What, was he an asura or a demon, or did he have bad qualities, or was he doing something bad? No. He was following the Vedas, and Vedas are meant for regulated enjoyment. And he's following the regulations and he's enjoying also. But when we read the way the verses describe sense gratification, especially with respect to sex, it becomes very, the whole world around us is revolving around that. Everybody is talking about that topic, how to perform that act in a better way, how to do that with more people. That is the discussion that people have, even whether it is a social party or gathering or gossip. this is what people are doing. So sometimes we confuse what we are reading in Bhagavatam, which is applicable to King Prachina Barishat, and we may connect the same with what is happening around us. So first of all, we have to be very careful that that is not the case. What we are seeing around us is completely demoniac, completely against the scriptural injunctions or Vedas. In fact, the people out there, they don't even know what is mentioned in the Vedas. Whereas Prachina Barishat was a king who studied, who understood, and who followed them. So whatever sense gratification he was engaging in was as per the Vedas. So he was doing karma, not vikarma. So then one may question that if he's doing the right thing, why Narad Muni is spending so much time, so many chapters, so much detail he goes into, and he describes the story to King Prachina Barishat. And as we have discussed before, and a lot of other speakers have mentioned, that Narad Muni had to spend so much time to come up with an example so that King Prachina Barishat, by being inspired by the story, may change himself. Because usually we see when we want to give direct advice to somebody, they don't accept it. In fact, there is a verse in Hitopanishad that says that Upadesha hi murkhanam prakopayana shantaye. So it just means that Upadesh, if you give any advice to murkhanam, to fools, then what happens? They become even more angry and they start criticizing you, or they start finding faults in you. You know, if you try to correct somebody and you are not in that responsible position where you are allowed to correct, then what happens? The other person, instead of looking at his shortcoming, will look at your shortcoming and highlight that as an argument. Is it not? We find that. So it's very, very, nowadays it's a trend that, you want to correct others, but if you don't have the right attitude, if you don't have the right intent, and if you don't have the right way of doing it, then even though your intent may be right, it is taken in a wrong way. And it will actually go against you if you try to do that. So unless we are asked, unless we are in that responsible position, we should not correct. Of course, we understand Narad Muni cannot be in any better position. He is a Parivrajaka, and this is his business, day-to-day business, is to give people the highest gift that he can. So he had already instructed Vyasadev in chapter 4 of Bhagavatam, and we saw this verse in the purport Prabhupada gives, where he tells Vyasadev that you have given very nicely all the Vedas and all the scriptures, but all of them are actually telling people or training people to enjoy in a better way. And you have not highlighted the actual ultimate purpose of life. So the same message Narad Muni is giving to everybody else, and the same aspect is over here as well. So King Prachina Barishat is a nice person. He's a good king. But just being good is not enough to achieve the goal of human life. So Narad Muni is giving him all these stories, all this example to inspire him to change his lifestyle, to more be attached to devotional service rather than just following the Vedas and engaging in sense gratification. So in this particular verse, 2 points are very important. So first is, he says, Yatha Bhavan. So just like you, he doesn't say directly that you are doing this. He says that this king, Puranjana, was just like you. So that's one way of putting things across. Second is, the important word here is Kamo. So it is said, Nana Kamo Yatha Bhavan. So this king was influenced by so many desires. He was implicated, Prabhupada says, with so many desires. Of course, we understand that as long as we have a mind and intelligence which Krishna has given us as resources, we will have desires. So here, first point is he became implicated with so many desires. Why implicated? Because all these desires were material desires, desires to gratify the senses. So that is the first part. Now, as a result of having desires to fulfill them, what did he do? Is the second part. Second part, in this verse, it says that he worshipped various personalities like the demigods, the forefathers, the pitras, and the leaders, the current leaders in society. How did he worship? With sacrifice. And the sacrifice was very ghastly because all the sacrifices that he was engaging in to satisfy these different personalities involved animal killing. So here, these 2 points are important. One is being implicated in desires. Second point is to satisfy people through sacrifices which involve killing animals. These 2 points we get from this verse. Now in the purport, as I said, 5 points for us to meditate on or to contemplate. First is we have to understand that it's very difficult to spread the message of Krishna consciousness, give people the gift of devotional service, because everybody is so much conditioned, and as we progress more into Kali Yuga, the conditioning is even more intense and deep. So when something like this is given to people, it doesn't penetrate, or they don't want to take it, they feel offended. So giving an example or a story is often a better way to start a communication in this regard, because devotees will follow in the footsteps of Narad Muni, including Srila Prabhupada. So if we really want to please them, we have to not only follow it ourselves first, and then we also spread this message to others. So we have to keep in mind that stories and examples are often a good start point before the philosophy can be discussed. So that is number one in the first part of the purport, Prabhupada says. Second is, we have to understand that everybody, it's called karmis. Now, what is their goal? Their goal is that they want to work very hard and they want to ensure that their senses are gratified. And not only are they happy to gratify their own senses, they are working hard to produce progeny, descendants, and they also plan that such descendants who will appear in future or who have just appeared, they have given birth to, this person will also arrange for their sense gratification. So one is to create descendants, and second is to arrange for the descendants' sense gratification. So like that, the whole network, it's like network marketing, you do something and then you replicate it and then you keep growing. So instead of reducing sense gratification, it's a network of growing sense gratification, which is what is there in the Vedas. And this is where karmis are constantly engaged in. So here we read in the previous verses that not only Puranjan was gratifying his senses to the best possible ability, he also, as a result of uniting with his wife, he produced 1,100 sons and 110 daughters, right? Yeah. In text 6 and 7, it mentions. And then there was grandchildren as well. Now, he did not stop producing just after the child was produced and he just brought them up. He also wanted to ensure that they get married so that they can also enjoy and they can also create progeny, just like he did. So it's an increasing network. Why? So that they can live comfortably. And to live comfortably, they have to perform so much sacrifice. They have to work hard. Prabhupada uses the word work hard like an ass and a donkey. And to get things for sense gratification, often we find around us that we have to please the influential people around us who are influential either in increasing our opulence or influential in giving us something that we really don't deserve but are hankering for. So what people call as bribe. And we see it all around us, right? And frankly speaking, everybody, including people who are engaging in devotional service or starting to engage in devotional service, even we want everything, all of us, I'm sure, we are also wanting a good life. Why have we come to New Zealand? To have a better life. Why are we going to Australia? To get a better life. Why are we going to US? To get a better life. And then if you're not happy with the US or satisfied, then what happens? Then you go to Mars. People are booking space in Mars. Why? They think that life there is better. So everybody is looking for betterment. Now, is looking for betterment good or bad? If you are not looking for betterment, what is our motivation? Why are we doing things? If everything is status quo, nahi kuch nahi karna hai, bas jo hai jaisa hi hai. Be, just be there. Be satisfied. There is no motivation, there is no inspiration, there is no growth. So everybody wants to grow, everybody wants betterment. But we have to understand betterment in which direction. Betterment for what? That is important. Just because other people are doing this, other people are hankering after wealth, I also should hanker after wealth. Now, if that is the attitude for growth, then that is not healthy. But if the growth is based around fulfilling the goal of our existence, then definitely we must. We should not be happy and satisfied in that direction. So instead of just blindly following the karmis and trying to do what they are doing, we have the ability, Prabhupada has given us the resources to think, to contemplate, and to decide what is the best course of action for us and our dependents. So here, one good point Prabhupada mentions is that if we are not having any spiritual impetus, we are just around material things around us, then we are no better than these people that Prabhupada describes in the purport, and in fact worse. Because today, people just want to grow, they want to enjoy, but they have no idea about Vedic injunctions, and they follow nothing that King Prachina Barishat here is following, or we are made to understand that he is doing, engaging in. So this is the second part. Second part is karmis are only looking for sense gratification and growth, and they will go to do any lengths, any extent, do any sacrifice to even kill animals to achieve that. Number 3, modern civilization is centered essentially around animal killing. Prabhupada very nicely puts, and we hear from so many people, especially when we broach the topic of meat eating, or now nobody likes to hear animal killing, but everybody is quite comfortable to say that eating animals is good for health. That's a very, very big discussion, very sensitive discussion sometimes. But if you say animal killing, they feel, no, I will not kill an animal. But I don't mind eating an animal because I'm not killing it, somebody else is killing. We often find that description. So Prabhupada says that people are killing animals in the name of sacrifice. Nowadays, even sacrifice is not done. Although the Vedas say that we should perform the sacrifice, perform the worship, and then we can partake eating of meat in certain restrictive situations. But people are using it as an excuse to just satisfy the tongue. There's a Prabhu here I had met. and he comes from a very cultured family. But he somehow, and he comes to the temple, he even chants a few rounds, comes for festivals whenever he can, and he's in principle quite supportive of this Hare Krishna movement, Prabhupada, and the process of bhakti. But every time we have this discussion and I say, Prabhupada, Prabhu, you should increase your chanting and you must follow. He says, yeah, I would love to follow. But you know what? There is one thing. There is just one thing I cannot leave. And I knew what it is, but I still asked him, and what is it? He said, I just cannot leave eating meat. I must have it. I've reduced a lot, but I still cannot leave it. The day I leave it, I'll come. And I've been hearing this for the past many years. Right? So the point is, the conditioning is so much, the attraction for the tongue is so much that all kinds of excuses are given to eat in the name of many other things. And then Prabhupada very nicely writes that if we are regularly eating meat, then it loads our digestive system. So we need to have alcohol alongside. And then once meat goes in the body and alcohol goes in the body, then there is that urge for increased sexual desire to fulfill our lust. And then that comes into play. So all these three things, they go hand in hand and degrades a person from where they are. And modern society today is encouraging people to do all these three things. In fact, if somebody is not doing these things, they are considered an outcast in today's society, especially when we go to social gatherings. And I'm sure many of you would have experienced that. So that is the third point. In relation to the same topic, the fourth point, Prabhupada says that there are two types of animal killings. One type is the religious animal killing, where there is the respective Devi or Devata is worshipped. And then this is offered and it is partaken. But it is not that because I want to eat, I should offer it and then eat. The point is, you have to go through a restriction that you do. If you cannot control your tongue, you do it, but you do it in a restrictive way. That is the goal. So instead of taking this as a restriction, people are taking it as a way to increase their desires of the tongue. Okay, all I have to do is offer, na chalo, I'll offer and eat. We were at a program a few years back when one of the guests who attended the program, the Namahat program, we were discussing about how we're doing chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita and discussing that everything we have to offer to Krishna. Whatever we eat, we should offer. Otherwise, we are only eating sins. So this guest raised the hand and said, can I ask a question? Yes. I drink tea. Can I offer the tea to Krishna? Right? So this is so instead of knowing, I mean, the person knew, we discussed about how intoxicants are not conducive in spiritual progress. But instead of thinking how to reduce, if not completely eliminate tea, the question was, can I offer and eat at least? So then I'm not going to incur the sins. So this is the society we are in. This is a kind of environment we are in, where people are talking more in terms of enjoyment rather than restrictions. So here Prabhupada says, Vedas, yes, they give you a way to enjoy, but it has to be restrictive. Means what? That ultimately it has to be reduced. We may be doing a lot, but it has to be restricted, reduced, till it comes to a point where we are completely giving it up for a higher purpose. So that is the fourth point. And the fifth point is, in general, people around us are in the mode of ignorance. And in the mode of ignorance, various religious systems are manufactured by people. So today, as we know, if somebody knows a little bit of Bhagavad Gita, can chant some mantra which others have no idea, they become instant guru. If you're talking to, you've gone to a social gathering and somebody quotes one verse of Gita or even a shloka that you have not heard at all, you become instant guru straight away. So whatever you say becomes supreme absolute truth, and people will not question. They may voice their, they may not agree to all that, but they will accept in principle, and they will say, no, but I think it is like this, and I think it is like this, and it keeps going. So Prabhupada always told us that we should, even when devotees meet, it is not about what one devotee thinks and the other devotee thinks. We have to deliberate and contemplate on what Prabhupada has explained, what the acharyas have explained, and we should deliberate and amongst each other and try to understand that in the right context. That is the important part, not what we feel. That is not important. So because these religious systems are manufactured, they are a product of speculation, and they are centered around sense gratification, then we can understand that they will only involve things or processes or systems which involve sinful activities. And the primary among that is killing of animals. So this whole purport, if you see, Prabhupada has focused on animal killing as being a primary way that senses are gratified, apart from enjoying with the opposite gender. So here, essentially, all these 5 points is because a person's consciousness today in this Kali Yuga is covered by 3 things. 3 things are covering a person's consciousness. What is it? Women, wine, and flesh. Just like we discussed, any social gathering, these 3 things are must, and one follows the other. And the whole idea is, I will only enjoy if I have an unrestricted sense enjoyment. And till the person is in their youth, they have got the ability, they have got the time, they have got the senses to actually enjoy. But once somebody crosses 50, usually, even earlier sometimes, the senses, the body starts becoming weak. And although the tendency to enjoy remains, the ability to enjoy reduces. And that's when the person gets frustrated. That I want to enjoy, but I can't enjoy. Just like people work so hard in their youth to make a lot of money. So they don't eat on time, they don't sleep on time, they work long hours, and they neglect their health, they neglect family, they neglect all the other social and other engagements that are required as part of normal existence, and they focus only on one thing, and they get eventually a lot of money perhaps. And when they get the money, they have perhaps crossed the prime of their youth, and by the time they come to that stage where they have accumulated a lot of money, they have lost their health. So now they have got the money, they have the time, but they don't have the ability to enjoy it because of their bodily condition. And so they spend their money in repairing their health that they have very nicely abused in the previous years. So the money is there, but there is no enjoyment. And that frustrates people even more. Because there is no higher purpose, they just think this is my life is just to enjoy, and all I need to enjoy is a lot of money. Once they have got the money, they're not able to enjoy. So they get even more frustrated because they don't know what to do. So if we don't have somebody like Narad Muni coming to help such persons, what is the hope? What hope have those people got? And sometimes even as people practicing Krishna consciousness, there is always a fine balance. We are also engaging in some form of enjoyment. We are also having our own grihastha life, work commitments, other things that we may or may not like to do, which may or may not be exactly in line or conducive to devotional service, but we are forced sometimes to do. So the point is, it's a balance, it's a restriction. These two words are very important. So when we start engaging in devotional service, we have to prioritize our life in such a way that we can create that balance. But ideally, the ideal situation is material sense gratification has to be restricted. That is the key thing. How much? Of course, that is more of a personal thing that we need guidance from Guru, with the Shiksha or Diksha Guru, to get more insight into that. But that is very important. Otherwise, we may be chanting our rounds, we may be reading Bhagavatam, but if the tendency to enjoy is not restricted and we are not getting constant guidance in this regard, then frankly speaking, such a person is no better than King Prachina Bharishat, or even worse perhaps. So it is not that just because we are doing this, we should feel safe and, oh, I am not like Prachina Bharishat, I am better. No, that is the biggest illusion. That is the biggest illusion. We should never have that feeling. So here people are engaging in so much sense gratification. Why? Because they have no idea that whatever activity we do, there is a reaction to it. Everybody will have to face a reaction to what we are doing. And if we are doing these things which are materially motivated, that reaction will come accordingly. And it is usually not pleasurable or happy. So this aspect is very, very important. So yes, this is there, the material things are there, it's going on. Now how do we actually come out of it? We can go on talking more about this aspect. But yes, okay, we understand, we want to grow, we want to have enjoyment. We also have desires. So rather than engaging our desires in sacrifices and pleasing ordinary personalities who are in an influential position and sacrificing animals, we should direct our desires. We should direct our propensity to enjoy towards activities that don't deteriorate over a period of time. And that is obviously, as Prabhupada says, and Narad Muni is telling King Prachina Bharishat, is to ultimately connect ourselves closer to the source of all happiness, to the source of all enjoyment, to the source of all gratification, and do things for that person, that supreme person. So in that regard, as we move ahead, there is a nice prayer by Prachetas that comes to mind. Because here I see in this verse, it started with King Puranjana being implicated with so many desires. So the point is not that we should not have desires, but to be implicated with material desires is the issue. So what about, we have desires, we have a mind, we have an intelligence, but what about redirecting this desire to something that not only gives us happiness and enjoyment, but ensures that we are moving in the right direction to achieve the goal of human existence? And this is a prayer that that the Prachetas, they pray to Vishnu to ask for a benediction. So we always ask for, we are praying to Krishna, we are asking something or the other, I'm sure. So although we know we shouldn't be asking, or we are not required to ask, but still we do have that desire to ask. So if there is a desire and we want to ask, we should know what to ask. So Prachetas are showing us the way. So this is there in 4th canto, chapter 30, verse 33, where they say, Yavatte mayaya sprishta brahmama iha karmabhihi tavad bhavat prasanganam sangasyanno bhave bhave. So the Prachetas are saying, as long as we have to remain in this material world due to our own contamination, we pray that life after life we associate with those engaging in discussing your pastimes. Very simple. Again, it is not something we didn't know. But when we read and connect it in this context, then it makes more sense. So Prachetas, they had everything. They are the sons of such a big king. So they have got all sources of sense enjoyment. But after meeting Vishnu, of course, they got this whole discourse from Lord Shiva as well before we have read. So now they are asking that, see, we will be in this material world and we'll continue to wander. So our desire is, our prayer to you is that life after life, doesn't matter. We are not here to make a condition that next life take us back to Godhead. Prachetas are saying that whatever it is, wherever you keep me, please ensure that I associate with devotees. What kind of devotees? Devotees who are constantly discussing your pastimes. And that should be something we have to put our focus on. We have to meditate on. And not only meditate, we have to take action. And likewise, in forums like these, where devotees are constantly discussing the pastimes of the Lord, have more such associations, spend more time in these to actually feel the pleasure within. Yesterday there was such a nice Ram Navami festival. So just by hearing, Devamrit Maharaj was talking about some Ram Leela just before the Aarti. So just by hearing from devotees, just by associating with such devotees, we feel very full, very blissful. Our senses, they are fulfilled. And when our senses are fulfilled, we would like to engage in more such activities. So this whole section in Bhagavatam is teaching us how to redirect our desires so that we are not keeping ourselves away from enjoyment, but we are having a higher level of enjoyment. In Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna says, when we get something high, the low automatically drops. And that is the purpose of Narad Muni in giving this message to King Prachina Bharishad. It is the same intent of Srila Prabhupada giving us these purports. And it is the same intent of Prabhupada's disciples giving us this message in a more practical way. And it is our duty to not only follow them, to also spread this to people, whoever we can around us. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Open to any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Whole Bhagavad Gita is described with your discussion. The whole 4 regulative principles are so nicely mentioned in this verse, and you have given such an elaborated examples showing us the right way of our thinking. Though we are in this age, but still our senses are directing sometime in wrong way without knowing that we are doing something wrong. But the best way to get it rectified with the proper association with the devotees, and that this verse, this 4:30-33 tells us, you redirect your enjoyment in the right association, so that life after life you manage your association and elevate yourself in the right direction, so that you can ultimately achieve the goal of life. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for the very nice class after a long time. Thank you for that, and particularly bringing out the dilemma of a person who are doing some devotional service at the same time attached to the material thing too much. It just reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 44. It's Bhagosyaja prashoktanang taya aparita chetasham vyavasayitmaka buddhi samadho no vidyate. So they cannot do it firmly because they are attached so much with the material attachment, their enjoyment, that they do not have the determination to do the devotional service perfectly. That is one. But at the same time, if they changes it, it is in, I think Srimad Bhagavatam, it is 3:25-20, it is there. Prasangam ajaro pasam atmanu pavayo vidu shoyevo sadhu sukrito mokshadaram apavrita. So we know that attachment is there, but the attachment and it is very strong. But if it is directed to the devotees or the spirits, the attachment is redirected, as you have nicely told, that to self-realized devotees, that opens the door of liberation. And that is the way one can get rid of. And one, because it gets precedence over the material attachment. And only that is the beginning. One has to more mix with devotees, and where the discussion about the Lord happens, and with the Lord taking care of these of those souls, because God, Lord being situated in our heart gradually changes the heart, and that is the only way for those persons to redirect their desire, because desire is there, as you right told, it will never go, but desire has to be redirected from material things to the Lord. If it is done, and that is the only way it can be done, by association with devotees and doing devotional service. And devotional service can be increased only by remaining with devotees, which you have very nicely pointed out. And that is the problem of a lot of people around us, and also involving us as well. So thank you for that very nice class, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Okay, so we will conclude here. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, it appears there is no other person to make comment.
Okay.
So, Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Sindhuvyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. His Grace Suhrit Krishna Prabhu ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.